This week on Not Another Movie Podcast, we talk about all things Wonder Woman.
Yeah, and looks like Sin City might be coming to the television screen.
And Universal's Dark Universe might have found its Wolfman. Hello and welcome back to episode 18 of Not Another Movie Podcast. I'm Sean Pierce.
And I am Sean Diana Prince Kelly.
Yeah, it's been a big week. We're here to talk about the big release of the summer that is Wonder Woman. We have both seen it and we haven't spoken about it at all, so I'm looking forward to seeing your opinion on it. But before we kick off, you got anything to start the show with?
Well, not really, but I sat down the other day. Did you ever watch Twin Peaks when it was out?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, okay, because they've released the new season, or the new series, I should say, and my wife was like, oh, we should try this out. And I thought, yes, let's do that, but we should go back and watch the original series first. So we sat down and we watched the first pilot and the second episode, so it was like, over 2 hours of Twin Peaks so far.
Yeah.
It is, like, it lives up to the hype of being a weird show.
Yeah. Season 1 is brilliant. Season 2 lets itself down so badly.
That's
And
sad.
then I've only watched the first episode of the revival,
Yeah.
and it's as kooky as you could ever fucking imagine. So
That's
I
good.
haven't sat down to watch the rest of it yet. But
Yeah,
how far have you finished season 1 or anything?
No. I'm only up to we've only watched the first two episodes. But if you're listening to this and you haven't thought about checking it out, check it out because it looks like the acting is terrible and the shots are terrible and everything is bad, but it just works.
No, it's like that for a reason.
Yeah, that's what I think you're absolutely, because that's what I'm watching this and I should hate it. And if you explained this to me or just gave me like a 5-minute clip, I'd probably say that's the worst show ever. But seeing it all together, it's pretty amazing. And there's some, even though it was made in 1990, there was a shot in the last episode where I just looked at my wife and I thought, all right, I'm a little bit actually freaked out right now. Even though it was kind of like cheesy and over the top, I don't know what he's done, but it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, well, this was groundbreaking television. There wasn't anything like this at all on TV back in the 90s. So you can kind of see that it did really lead the path for a lot of TV shows that we're getting in the last, say, 5 to 10 years.
You can see the trends.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as I said, there was nothing like this on television. And I remember when it came out, it was this massive phenomenon, and I was way too young to watch it. But it always piqued my interest. So then eventually when I was a teenager, I was able to, I think, hire it on VHS. That's how fucking old it is.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what the fuck am I watching? But
Would you say
then I got
Twin
into...
piqued your interest?
Oh, no.
Never mind. Okay. I should have let it go. I'm like, no, I'm going to wait till he finishes talking and get on that.
But yeah, do continue with it. As I said, season 1 is brilliant. Season 2 just is like completely left field. As I said, the revival is started quite well too.
We want to get there. You can definitely see, like, we watch Riverdale, which is the Archie gritty series.
Is that any good?
It's not great.
Okay.
It's very like high drama teen kind of shtick. But we watched through the first season; it was fine. But it borrows so heavily from Twin Peaks, and like Twin Peaks just is Riverdale on acid, and it just works so much better. But you can see Riverdale's worth watching just for some of the cinematography is quite lovely. But besides that, you don't go watching for a thinkers type of series. But anyway, if you haven't checked out Twin Peaks, please do it. I'd be keen to hear your thoughts.
Another decent show quickly before we get on to Wonder Woman. Have you gone on to 13 Reasons Why?
No, but it's like everyone at school was talking about it for a while.
Yeah, that's why I thought I'm pretty sure it would have crossed your path being a teacher. You should definitely give that one a go as well. And anyone who's listening, give that show a go too. It's quite good and it does get you hooked on pretty quickly.
We'll check it out.
All right, well, as we said off the top of the show, this is the week of Wonder Woman. It's the one that we've been hoping that would correct things over at the DCEU. And we'll give our spoiler-free discussion now. And then get into the spoiler discussion later on in the show as the last piece. But I got to admit, I fucking loved it.
Yeah, I quite enjoyed it, I have to say. I think my ultimate review is that the parts were better than the sum of the whole, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah, I agree on you on that one. Yes.
So there were some scenes in the film where I'm just like, this is the best movie that I've ever seen in my life forever. And then there were other bits that the beats just didn't work or just seemed strange and out of place. And the overall, I thought the first two acts rocked, and the third act was a letdown. But the whole film, and I'm so excited. Sitting there watching it, thinking, I really wish Mika, my daughter, was old enough to watch this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really, really strong film for young girls now to see, a hero up on screen. And I totally agree with you on the first two acts, and then the third act we'll discuss later in the spoilered field discussion. But it was funny because I remember when Batman v Superman came out, everyone was buzzing about Wonder Woman, and I wasn't that impressed, to be honest. It wasn't like she blew my socks off or anything. And even Gal Gadot, for that matter. I watched her in that other one, Keeping Up with the Joneses, and, did nothing for me. But for some reason, I was absolutely captivated by her in this film. She had me with her performance. She had me with her eyes. She just had me full stop. And
she's got charisma, man.
Yeah, as I said, I didn't catch it in Batman v Superman. I didn't catch it with Keeping Up with the Joneses, but she was phenomenal in this. And I'm not talking about visually, acting-wise. She just brought so much to the character. And there was so much depth, and there was so much innocence, and there was so much courage, and there was everything. Humor that she brought to it, the humanity that she brought to this film is something that we should have seen in Superman by now.
Yeah, exactly right. She's gone through more of an emotional range in this one movie than Superman has for two.
Yeah. As much as I loved Man of Steel, I walked out of that thinking, this is what Superman should have been.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And Chris Pine, he was fantastic in this.
Yeah.
To go from, being in another mainstream blockbuster with Star Trek and being the main man in this, to playing a secondary role in this and just knocking it out of the park. And even after last year's Hell for High Water, he's just going from strength to strength, in my opinion. I just thought of him as this pretty boy who got lucky in Star Trek. But no, this guy's actually got some really good acting chops. So,
and I thought it was the balance between the two was handled quite well. It never felt like he was taking over the film.
No, not at all.
But it also never felt like, Wonder Woman had to put the man in her place and, show what a real woman could do or anything like that. It was no. I didn't see any pandering for my mind in it at all. Maybe other people have a different opinion, but so I thought that relationship was handled quite well.
No, and hats off to Patty Jenkins. She really, not only visually brought it, but emotionally she brought this to this film as well. The characters were so well developed; they weren't one-dimensional like we've seen from the DCEU so far. And it's a massive tick for me. As I said, we'll get through what the issues that I had with it later on in the show. But if this is where it's going, then it's a hell of a start.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yes.
So if you're on the fence about seeing this movie, please get out and see it, and get your friends to see it as well. Because as sad as it is, we do want to support this film. Because there was a thing going around a couple of weeks ago about how no one's really advertising this movie, and I kind of agree. I mean, I've certainly seen more of Spider-Man: Homecoming advertising than I have for this. But I wish, I want it to do very well so that they'll make a sequel and a trequel and everything else. So get out and see it, please.
Well, it will be interesting if they do go the sequel route because this film is set at World War One. It's kind of weird, or not weird, but you don't know where, if the sequel does happen, which era it's going to take place in. So
yeah, exactly right.
As I said, there's still so much more between what happens at the end of this film to what happens when we meet her in Batman v Superman. So
exactly,
there's a lot of story to tell. So hopefully it is a success, and everything points to that so far. And fingers crossed, this story can continue.
Yep.
All right. So where you can see from our reviews, it's very positive.
Yeah.
All right. Let's kick into the movies news, shall we?
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
All right, so let's continue on Wonder Woman, shall we? And this week it's it's as much as the reviews have been massive. I think it's the highest rated comic book movie on Rotten Tomatoes at the moment. But it has come with its own little bit of controversy, and that's Wonder Woman has been banned in Lebanon. Now, I don't know how big box office returns are in Lebanon and whether this is going to affect it that much. But there's a Lebanese group called the Campaign to Boycott Supporters of Israeli actors. And basically they have an official war with Israel, and the law boycotts any Israeli products. And because Gal Gadot is an Israeli actress, they are banning this film in Lebanon.
Yeah, it's their loss, man. I mean, I'm not a Lebanon expert. I can't give the ins and outs of this conflict, but man, they should see this movie because it's very good.
Yeah, as I said, it's a strange one, to be honest. And of all the shit that you hear out in the world, this is one of the conflicts that hasn't really come past my desk, to be honest. But, obviously they have their issues and they've got to stand by their laws. And Wonder Woman will not be seen in Lebanon.
I'd love to see the piracy stats for that for this film in Lebanon in a couple of months.
That's the first thing I thought about as well.
That's because we're Australian.
Yeah, we'll see if they're as bad as the Village Roadshow here in Australia, and they'll bring it out 10 months later.
Yeah.
Once all the issues have subdued. All right, well, another story off the top of the show that we mentioned about, and it was a movie that I loved when it came out. I think it was early 2000s, but then the sequel was just a fucking disaster, and that was Sin City. Now, this is actually good news because they're thinking about bringing it back to TV.
Which is a great idea. I think Sin City could have a great home on television. Yeah,
because the stories itself and the comics go so deep that, it's a lot to take in just an hour and a half or 2 hour film. So if they could stretch these stories out over seasons, it would be fantastic to see.
Will they still go the rotoscopy route, do you think? Black and white?
I think so. That was what made the show so good, in my opinion, or the movie. And then the comics itself had its own visual style that you would think it would have to carry over into the TV show.
Yeah, and I'd love to see them start telling some new stories as well, set in that universe, because, as you said, it's quite right for the storytelling.
And the good thing about it is that it's got some really good names attached to it. It's got Glenn Mazzara, who is a showrunner on The Walking Dead and another great TV series called The Shield. And then Underworld director Len Wiseman is going to direct and produce some of the show as well. So that would be fantastic too.
Yeah, so I never saw Sleepy Hollow, which is what he did, but apparently it was good.
Yeah, no, well, it lasted a couple of seasons, so it did have some legs.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm excited about that. I'm down.
Well, another thing I'm semi-excited for, we spoke about it last week, and this is Universal Studios' Dark Universe.
Yeah.
And I think we mentioned in that show as well that there was no mention of one of the famous characters, Wolfman. And funny enough, the front runner for this and who they really want is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
Which, I don't know, I always saw the Wolfman as kind of like a lean Predator type, but I guess it could be a big muscle-bound dude as well.
Yeah, as I said, like we said, I can't remember, with the Tom Hardy casting of Venom.
Yeah.
The Rock would be the last person I would think of to play the Wolfman.
Well, I'd probably cast The Rock before I cast, Joan Cusack or something, but... Well, I think actually she'd make a great one now that I think about it. I don't know. I like The Rock. I think he's quite charismatic, but even that doesn't, I always thought Wolfman is, social outcast sort of thing. I don't know. The Rock's, does he have too much charisma to play the Wolfman?
I think so.
Maybe people who know the series more will be like, no, dude, The Rock is the perfect choice. Didn't you know the original Wolfman was a wrestler? No, I did not know that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure no one's going to say that.
No. I was kind of hoping that, given the Mummy, I was kind of hoping he'd come back as the Scorpion King, and they can fix that god-awful CG.
Oh, that's true. That was his first role too, and I don't think he even had a line in that movie.
No, I don't think he did either.
It wasn't until he had his own Scorpion King movie where he was actually be able to talk on film, and then the rest is history after that.
Did they ever address the fact, just quickly, that in that Mummy movie, he was like an evil dude who got turned into a half-man, half-scorpion demigod thing? But then in the Scorpion King movie, he was like a good guy Spartacus type. Did they ever address
Honestly, I lost interest after the first one. So
Okay, because they just went a complete 180 on his character. I think The Rock must have gotten big at the box office. They're like, let's just retcon everything and chuck him out there.
Yeah. Well, I was actually reading an interesting article about this dark universe, and they're saying that a lot of the films won't be these big budgeted mummy type films that we're going to see. We're actually going to see some lower budgeted type movies. So, all of them aren't going to be this massive scale that the Mummy is on. So
that's good.
Yeah, I wonder which ones they could really bring back down to earth.
Maybe
The Invisible Man. You would think you wouldn't need that much of a big film for that one.
No, but it's Johnny Depp, so you think you're going to have some budget.
Maybe Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde didn't necessarily need to be so big budget. I guess it all depends on what period they set these films in.
Well, they're modern day, aren't they?
Yeah, but it's true. But they might have a backstory on some of them. I'm not sure.
That's true. Yeah. That's true.
And as we spoke about last week, they're still hunting Angelina Jolie to play the Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah, that's got to be a big movie.
But apparently that's the one that's next after this one. So, they're still waiting to see how the box office results come back on The Mummy and Bride of Frankenstein to see, if this universe is actually going to take off or not.
So they're wheeling out all of their crew for the films that they got planned, including Dr. Jekyll, who's in this movie. And the next movie is The Bride of not even Frankenstein, The Bride of Frankenstein, with an actor they haven't even landed yet. Correct. That seems strange to me.
Well, that's according to The Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah, well, they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. All right, well, the last story, and this is the one I was quite excited about, actually, and we spoke about this after we saw Kong and how that film is connected to Godzilla. Well, news came out this week that in 2020, we will be seeing Godzilla versus Kong.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it was obviously going to happen, but it's good to get it confirmed.
It has got a director attached named Adam Wingard, and at the moment he is directing the Death Note film. Death Note is, I'm pretty sure it's an anime, a really big anime, and it's got a lot riding on it, to be honest, after the Ghost in the Shell debacle. They would really want to hit one of these ones.
Yeah, I agree.
But he also has directed The Blair Witch that came out last year.
The 26th, yeah.
And a film that was quite good and highly underrated was called The Guest. He was quite good in directing that film as well.
Oh, I never even saw that one.
Yeah, it's as I said, he comes from a horror background. So how that carries over into Godzilla versus Kong, I'm not sure. But it's funny where they find these directors, and even though it's got nothing to do with the film already, they seem to get it right. So I'm not quite sure if that will be the case with this one, but it's still quite exciting to see.
Yeah, bring it on, I say. I just can't wait. I just hope that he doesn't make the mistake of making them fight like 15 minutes before the end of the movie, and then it's over in 2 seconds.
Yeah, well, this is true. That's the issue that we had with Godzilla.
Yeah.
A lot of the film focused on the actors rather than Godzilla itself. He just seemed to be a background piece.
Fix that.
All right, well, compared to last week where we had a shit ton of news to talk about, this week was a pretty dry week. So at least we've got plenty of time now to get into our discussion of Wonder Woman. So if you haven't seen the film, as usual, just hit pause, go see it, and we'll be right here when you get back. All right, we're going to get into spoilers now in 3, 2, 1. Oh, also too, if you're... this is the last segment of the show, so don't think that you're missing anything. If you don't want to
just like Wonder Woman,
we shall see.
There's no after credit scene.
Yeah,
sorry.
There is no after credit scene in this one, which is quite disappointing actually. Considering
it's so disappointing.
I was hoping for a little bit of more of a Justice League action or Justice League hints towards the end of this film, but we didn't get them. So
the only tie-in, we're into spoiler territories now, so we can talk about it. The only tie-in was Bruce Wayne's name at the beginning of the movie.
Yes, the film starts off. Well, it basically bookends of the film are pretty much straight after Batman v Superman. She goes back to Paris, and then she receives the original photo from Bruce Wayne that we'd seen at the end of Batman vs Superman, and then we get the whole backstory of, if you remember the photo, she's standing with Chris Pine and a rest of a crew, and then we find about the whole backstory, and then goes from there. And then obviously the end of the film is the same scene, but basically she puts the photo away and then goes into action after that.
And can I just say, I didn't really like either of those bookends. I thought, I get, it's a good link through the photo to the previous films. I just don't think they were needed. And that last shot, Like, it's cool to have an action shot right at the end, but I'm like, what is she doing?
Yeah, same thing I thought as well. Yeah.
She's just jumping off into the air.
All right, well, as we said on the spoiler-free talk, is that, the major issues came with the third act. And it wasn't necessarily the third act in general. It's just, for me, it just looked like the Doomsday fight from Batman v Superman.
Yes, all over again.
Yeah.
And I was kind of hoping that they were going to go, because I thought they were telling quite an interesting story. I was really hoping they were going down the route of Ares is actually not involved. I would have loved it if she tracked Ares down and he was still, too weak from his run-in with Zeus, and he was just sitting there loving what's going on, but actually having no effect on it. And that's her realization that, and she comes from that realization anyway, that human beings are both good and bad. But that was I wish that they didn't bring that in, that the Ares fight into it. I just think it cheapened the whole movie.
As good as it looked, you're right. It just kind of fell flat, to be honest.
And I didn't think it looked necessarily great. Like, there were some cool moves and shots, but I didn't feel any tension at all during their battle. The only cool part I thought was when he's getting his armor, and then he makes his mask by peeling away the molten metal at his eyes. I thought that bit was cool, but I didn't think anything else was cool. And it did that really annoying thing that they do sometimes in these kinds of big boss battles, where at first he's destroying her, and then halfway through, for no reason, she starts hitting back hard. There was nothing that really changed.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, I can see your point there.
And I'm happy for it to happen that way, but just have something that brings that on. Because at the beginning she couldn't even touch him, and then later on she's just punching him up. So yeah, I was a bit disappointed.
Well, one thing I will say, and that's the marketing team of this film. Well done, because for a change, you didn't actually show anything from the third act in the trailers. When we saw, was it the first trailer or the second trailer, we pretty much said, oh, fuck, they've just shown what the whole 3 acts are. But no, they just showed the first act and the second act and didn't show anything from the third act. And personally, I think that's how all films should be marketed. You shouldn't see anything from the third act. There should be enough in the first 2 to sell the film without actually having to give the whole thing away.
Yeah, I completely agree. And look, to be honest, like we said, the first 2 acts are the good stuff out of this, so it was good marketing. Yeah.
The standout for me was the battle in the middle of the film. It's basically, they're trying to get from one end to the other, and they're running through the trenches in Belgium, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And she sees this woman and child, and the woman tells the story about how her town has been taken over, and no one can really do anything about it. The rest of her crew just want to keep walking, but she goes into battle mode and basically leads the army on her own back and fights the Germans and takes over this town that was basically gone.
That whole sequence was worth... I could have paid my money, gone and watched that sequence and walked out happy, because it was just righteous.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. And as you said, the price of admission alone is worth it just for that scene.
There's a couple of moments in that. There's one part where she... the part when I was watching that sequence, I'm like, this movie works. This is great. There's a shot where it tracks her kneeing this soldier through a window, and just that image, I'm like, that I need that as a wallpaper. And then she lands on the roof, and Chris Pine's kind of running in the alley below, and she's just booking it across the roof of this village, and then she lands in the square and just starts tearing people apart. The bit where she lifts the proto tank. I'm like, yes, that is righteous. More of that, please. And then she destroys the bell tower of the church after they do the old... I thought that was cool, though, as well, the shield lift thing.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a good moment.
But the part for me was where she's in the middle of the film and this guy's just got a Gatling gun and he's just doing everything, and she's just standing there taking it all with her shield, letting the rest of the army come in behind her. It was just phenomenal. And... that scene alone was so stirring, and as I said, that is what Superman should be.
Yes.
Wonder Woman is so powerful on her own, but that is what Superman should have been. He should have been there, like, just ignoring everything and just going in to save humanity, which is what she did.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and look, she had an emotional journey. She had an arc, but it didn't take away from that primary thing of a superhero, and of saving people. And she is one of those quintessential superheroes, which is, my deal is I save people, like I make the world a better place. And she did that while still having an emotional journey.
Now, as I said, I haven't really read a lot, but can she still take a bullet, or can she reflect bullets? She can't, can she?
I think it depends on the incarnation. Like, in some, like, she can reflect them with her gauntlets, but, I mean, Wonder Woman, depending on who's writing her, could be, Superman level toughness. So go toe-to-toe with Superman and, be a better fighter than he is because she's all trained and stuff. Whereas in other ones, she's got to be quick with the gauntlets and things like that. So I'm not sure. I was reading the newest series of her, but I can't really remember. I mean, she's, survives getting thrown through walls and stuff like that. So she's pretty tough.
Yeah. Look, at the moment, this film is tracking to open at 175 million, but I think this is going to open up at a lot bigger than that. I think, as you said yourself, you wish your daughter was older. I think once this finds its market, especially like you've got the superhero market already, but if you can start targeting that young girl audience, which I think this film will, because it is done so much for a female superhero on the big screen, that hopefully we'll start to see a lot more. Well, we know already we're going to see Captain Marvel over in the
I cannot wait for
MCU.
that. Yeah,
but yeah, hopefully this might lead to a Black Widow film, because, as I said, this film did so much for a female lead that you would think the floodgates might open after this one.
I heard Kevin Smith, he was talking about, they saw this film previously, and he was saying, just before the movie started, a woman screamed out, "I've been waiting my whole life for this."
Yeah.
And I'm like, and then he was talking about, representation, and about how, and it's something that, like, you might understand better than I do, but I don't really understand, because you get to see a reflection of you on the screen so much more often than women do, or minorities do, and things like that.
I kind of see it every time I see a Brad Pitt film.
I
just see my reflection all the time.
Yeah. I saw it. I've seen it in
The Goonies with Sloth.
No, I was going to say Fight Club with Meatloaf's character.
Bitch Tits.
Bitch Tits. Yeah, exactly right. Like, it's a Brad Pitt film, at least.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
At least we got to share the screen, at least.
Yeah. So,
I totally agree with you on that one. I think this is going to be the start of something big.
And I really wish that we had one of the female species as ridiculous. I wish we had a woman on the show to talk about it. My wife's going to see it on Sunday, so I'll get her feedback.
You should bring her on.
I suggested that, but she's coy.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I could get my mum on. She's less coy.
Yeah, I can imagine. But yeah, as we're talking about, as I said, in my own life, I coach a football team, and at our club, because of the big launch of the AFL Women's League this year, there's just been an avalanche of young girls come in to play football. So
awesome.
You can kind of see things turning, and I hope this film does exactly the same for young girls now that they've got their own superhero to look up to on the big screen.
All right, more cool things in this movie. The beach scene.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't realize that's Robin Wright Penn. That's friggin' right. Buttercup.
When I first looked at her, I didn't notice her, but then the more she was on screen, the more I'm like, I didn't even realize she was in this film.
No, and she did. Even though she's not in it for much, she was great. She was a great character, and she did so well.
Everything on that island now. You'll have to pronounce it for me because my pronunciation is horrible.
The Miscria, yeah.
Yes. Everything on that island looked phenomenal. And,
yeah.
Patty Jenkins, who hasn't come from, really CG-heavy films before, it just looked phenomenal, this island. It was so beautiful. The color palette was so amazing that, I would have loved to have spent a lot more time there.
Yeah, I agree. We might see it again in the future. But, I thought they did a great job. That scene with Robert Wright Penn flipping over you saw it in the trailer and, like, shooting the three dudes with the arrow. was righteous. And even Hippolyta, her mother, like leaping off the horse and cutting people down. When I saw that, and you don't want to like say, oh, how cool is it they're killing everybody? They're awesome. It's not about that. It's just about seeing just them do awesome stuff. And when that beach scene was happening, it was great. You didn't have to wait long for it. It was like in the first 10 minutes of the movie. But it made, I don't know. Yeah, it was righteous.
How did you feel about all the slow motion?
I thought some of it worked and some of it seemed a bit shoehorned in.
Yeah.
The flipping over was cool. I think that needed it. But there were some sequences, particularly in the one later on, where it just seemed like, did you accidentally like put your finger on the slow motion button when you were filming that? Maybe there's a reason for it I didn't pick up, but yeah, it didn't detract from it, I will say that.
For me, it just reminded me a lot of Schneider's early work, like 300 and Sucker Punch, where, especially Sucker Punch, where a lot of the violence was all slow motion. As I said, it was probably maybe, I reckon, just a smidge too much, but it didn't take away for anything from me.
Yeah, I think that's the key.
And I'm just looking at Patty Jenkins' IMDb, and realistically, she's only directed one feature film before this, and that was Monster with Charlize Theron, and that was in 2003. And she's just basically done TV since. So I think the world's her oyster now after this film.
Oh yeah, I think she better bloody be if they know what they're doing.
Well, she was going to direct Thor 2 in the MCU. So then she dropped out of that out of creative differences. So, at least she does stand her ground and just doesn't make a film for the sake of it. Obviously, she keeps waiting for the right project, and she's definitely hit it out of the park from this one.
I was going to say she found it here.
And she's worked on, some of my favorite TV shows, Arrested Development, Entourage, The Killing. So she's got, really good credentials there as well. So as I said, I'd love to see a lot more from Patty Jenkins.
I'd love to see her continue with the series, to be honest. When I'm really hoping they do make a sequel, I'd love to see her come on board and develop her vision of the character.
Yeah, well, as we said off the top, this covered World War One, and there's still a lot of time between the end of World War One and obviously what happens in Batman v Superman. So realistically, you could have 3 or 4 films before we even get there. So there's a lot to cover off, and a lot of shit happened in the world.
She does. She says in Batman v Superman, "I fought bigger" or something when they're talking about Doomsday.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I want to see her do stuff like that. I want to see her, fighting monsters and stuff, because they could go to World War II, but like Marvel have kind of already done a bit in World War II, and if they skip that, then what do they got? Like, I can't imagine she's going to go to Vietnam. Like, I'd like to see her do other stuff than just do a tour of the 20th century wars. Yeah, but anyway. We'll see.
As I said, I'm sure there's battles in her own world that she could have had.
Exactly right.
The only thing that's my only negative, and it was something that I showed you a meme of, is that when she goes to that German gala, you're telling me no one noticed the fucking sword in her back?
Exactly right, yeah.
So that was my only knock on it. I was just like, oh, surely security would have realised that a woman's coming with a fucking sword down her dress.
Shoot her.
And they said it was quite a long sword, so we don't know
where
the tip of that sword was. And there was a meme that we showed you where it showed her with the sword on her back, and then it had like a picture of with no dress, and the sword's just sitting in her ass crack. So it's very interesting to see where it's actually sitting.
She, I'm really impressed. Oh, not impressed, but I'm amazed that she just like straight up killed a dude.
Yeah.
Like, obviously you kill a lot of people as a superhero, kicking them through windows and stuff like that. But standing above a guy and stabbing him with the sword, did not expect that. I thought she was going to rope him up, and then he was going to confess that he wasn't Ares. Also, can I just say very quickly, that whole sniffing in the juice, I thought that was dumb. I thought they could have got rid of that. It was
completely unnecessarily. Like, there was no reason why he needed to have that extra bit of strength.
No, because he just got his ass kicked anyway. Like, yeah, it was. I don't understand why they had it. Yeah. Unnecessary. But I'm kind of impressed that they went there with the stabbing.
Yeah, I was waiting for her to pull the sword, just up to his chest, and then she realizes this isn't what it's supposed to be, and killing isn't part of her resume. But no, she fucking went for it.
Yeah, exactly right. And it kind of suits the character. I mean, she's not mercenary, but she does what she thinks she needs to do to make things better.
No, well, as I said, I for the minor flaws that it has, overall, it's a massive tick, and it's got me so more excited now for Justice League.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that the issues with this movie were scripting rather than anything else. So I think they're things that they can fix for the next movies. Yeah, there were a couple of things.
Surely after this, they couldn't fuck Justice League up, could they?
Yeah, definitely they could. I mean, I'm excited for Justice League more so now, but it is asking a lot, and particularly because the third act, as we talked about, is just straight to form. Might as well have been Batman versus Superman. Might as well have been Suicide Squad, laser beam in the sky kind of bollocks.
I was waiting for it, to be honest.
Yeah. So I kind of wish it didn't. Like, I would have. It didn't need to end that way. It could have. It could have been so much better. And I thought Chris Pine's exit was pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was. It was fantastic, actually.
That was the one saving grace of the third act, when like she's been knocked around a bit, so she's like got ringing in her ears, and they have that conversation, and he goes off, and then she like replays it in her mind, and she can hear what he said. And like, I actually got a little bit choked up. Then I have to say,
yeah, so did I actually.
It was at first I didn't like I thought they were forcing their relationship, but that scene sold it to me.
Yeah, because there was a fantastic line where she says, "Let me do this," and he goes, "No, I can save today, but you can save tomorrow." That was a fantastic line.
No, because I thought he was going to say that, but he said, "You can save the world," and I'm like, why didn't they say "you can save tomorrow"? Because that would have been so much better.
I heard tomorrow.
Oh, I heard the world. Maybe he did say tomorrow, and because that makes so much more sense. But for some reason,
he said, "I can save today, but you can save tomorrow."
Okay, well, if he said that, then yes, perfect bloody line.
I was going to say, because I took a mental note of that. I'm like, hang on, I'm not hearing things, am I?
I took a mental note the other way, and I'm like, why didn't they say that? But anyway, it doesn't matter. If that's the line he said, then yeah, it was bloody righteous, and I think one of the best on-screen chemistries in a superhero movie since Robert Downey Jr. and himself.
Yeah, this is true. Now, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but do you think her outfit was maybe too skimpy? The scene that I'm talking about is right in the middle of the film, where she's wearing like this fur coat for this whole trip that they're in Belgium, and then she takes it off, and then she's in her armor that we see her wearing on the beach, and it looks fine on the beach, but when she's in the real world, it kind of looks
out of place.
Yeah.
I do agree. I think they could have done a little bit more with it. I was actually having this discussion with some mates the other day. We were playing a video game, and I was ranting about this particular character's costume for being too skimpy. I think, it probably could have been chalked up a little bit. I didn't find it that egregious because there weren't any like money shots of like, let's track up her legs and across her chest, anything like that. But I mean, that's I agree with the overall idea.
Yeah. No, as I said, it's weird for me to say, but as I said, it kind of took me out of it at that stage of the film.
Yeah, that's fair enough too, I think.
Yeah. But as I said, these are just nitpicking, and it's completely goes, it doesn't necessarily go with what we're saying with the film, because the film is phenomenal, and I can't wait to watch it again, to be honest. And as you can tell, we were both really excited, and now we're even more optimistic about the DCEU. Yeah,
exactly right. I still think it needs a reboot, but it would be a bit harder to reboot now because that film was awesome. Yeah. Reboot it, but just keep that film in continuity.
What she's done in the movie, where she's bring light and she's brought hope. That's what this film has done in the DCEU as well.
Yeah, funnily enough, it's reflected in the real world.
Yeah. And as we said, if we can move away from this doom and gloom Superman, he died at the end of Batman v Superman. If he can be resurrected as the Wonder Woman charisma that and charm that she's got, then we could be in for something really special.
I want to see them play off each other. I think that could be cool. I don't want to watch a whole movie of her trying to make him not feel mopey, because I can see them doing that. Which would just completely relegate her character to just being, again, like his personal go-team cheerleader. Yep. Whereas she's got her own agency. She's doing her own thing. Like, if he's going to mope about, she needs to just save the world herself.
And I hope now that they don't push her into the background of the Justice League films.
Yes.
If anything, she should be front and center.
Well, she's like, I mean, they're going to make Batman front and center because that's what they do. But really, I mean, realistically, it should be Wonder Woman and the Justice League because she's the one. By the time the Justice League happens, she's hundreds of years old. She's got the fighting experience. She's the most, she's the general of the team. Really, she should be leading that shit. And that they had that great scene in the film where she's like, where I come from, the generals are out on the battlefield with the troops.
Yeah, that was good. I did like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, as you can tell, we are quite gushing of this film. I dare say it might feature on our, top fives at the end of the year. Who knows? But it's definitely there at the moment, and we're, halfway through the year now. So a massive tick from me, and I'm sure a massive tick from you.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, go out and see this film. Go out and support it. It's going to make phenomenal money, and let's hope that we can continue this storyline and continue this character in the form that she is now.
Yes.
All right, well, that wraps up episode 18 of another movie podcast. I am Sean Pierce.
And I am Sean Kelly.
And let your week be a good week until next week.